Hi, it's the M.L.M for the Soul channel, and I do have a new topic for today. Before I begin, I wanted to say, may the words and expressions of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance before you, Hashem. And some people I'd like to thank who have continued to inspire me on my journey. And I'll have links to their sites below this video. They are Rabbi Shalom Arush, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, Rabbi Lazer Brody, Yuval Ovadia, Rav Daniel Asor, Rabbi Alona Nava, Nissim Baruch Black, who else? David Sachs, and Jews for Judaism, Rabbi Michael Skobac. And hopefully I didn't leave anyone out. And also to remind you, if you've never actually watched any of my videos, Baruch Hashem, this will be video number 69. And I hope they keep coming. Hashem keeps inspiring me. He gives me everything that I share with you. And hopefully that will continue. So if you haven't watched, like I said, check out my first video, because I explain what M.L.M for the soul means. It actually stands for something, not the traditional M.L.M that everyone has heard of. And that'll give you a little more idea of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So today's topic is, and that's why I'm showing you this, you have to be plugged in. This happens to be a plug for my cell phone, and the reason I'm showing that to you is because if I want to charge my cell phone, or if you have any device that requires a plug, if you don't plug it in, it's either not going to get charged or it's not going to work. One or the other is going to be happening. So if you're not plugged in, then you can't have any results. I'm sorry for the noise in the background if you're hearing that. So that's a plug, a physical plug. But I'm talking more on the spiritual sense, meaning you have to be plugged into the Torah. And right here I have my Art Scroll Tanakh, and it's not just about reading the Tanakh, it's about reading all different types of things relating to spirituality, to getting closer to Hashem. So if you're not plugged in, you have to have that connection, that polarity. That, one of the things they say, opposites attract. That's just an expression, but it's something that you have to do. If you don't make that connection, especially if you don't make it on a daily basis, you're going to lose a lot. You're not going to get stronger in your connection. You're going to get weaker, because as we know, there's so many outside influences in the world that are pulling us in different directions. Now, the direction we want to go, if we want to be, quote, plugged in, you can see the plug. Anyway, and the plug has to go into the wall socket. It has, like I say, it has a connection. One goes into the other. So we have to, like a jigsaw puzzle, we have to put the pieces together the right way. So we want to be drawn up to this more spiritual levels instead of chas v'shalom down to levels that are going to create more sins or cause us to be tempted to do things that we're not supposed to be doing, because there's so many outside influences in the world. So the more we can keep plugging ourselves in constantly, I mean, just so you know, there's so many options. Like all the links that all the people I talked about that have inspired me, they all have sites. Some of them have apps, like Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi has an app that you could have on your iPad or your iPhone. You can be constantly listening, or CDs that you can put into your car. Even on the telephone, there are phone numbers you can call into. There's two that I know that I use, and I can include a link below if you want to check those out. One is called Kol HaLashon, and one is called Chazaq. Chazaq is Chafetz Chaim, and more about Lashon Hara, and Kol HaLashon is more like lectures about the Parsha and different things in Tanakh, etc. So there's endless hours you could be listening. I mean, all the time. You're in the kitchen cooking. You're sitting down. If you're not studying from a book and you want to listen while you're doing other work, tasks around the house, you're cleaning, you're cooking. When I even walk places, if I'm not listening to something in my ear, I have my phone. I don't have a smartphone or all those kinds, but I have a phone and I'm listening to a shiur, to a lecture, usually about the parsha. Once it's the end of Shabbat, whatever the parsha was, then I start the next. And there's so many different rabbis who have endless lectures about the parsha. So usually throughout the week, I'm either doing that or I'm listening to lectures on my iPad, or I'm studying the Tanakh. I also study the parsha every week. So, and other things as well. But I'm basically flooding my neshama, my soul, is what's getting all this, retaining all this information long term, subliminally, is I'm continually flooding myself with all the spirituality that I can to kind of make a barrier between me and the stuff that I don't want in my life, that is less productive, or not as spiritual, not going to really get me anywhere. Because if you think about it, all the stuff that's out there doesn't really get you. And of course, certain things we do. We eat to get healthy, to be strong, to serve Hashem better. Because when you're studying a lot of Torah too, there's a lot you're putting into it. Your brain is working, it's functioning, it has to study and understand, so that's using up energy. So of course we need to replenish that energy, and how you replenish it is by sleeping, of course. It's one thing we do as physical. If we weren't physical, we wouldn't have to. And also eating. So eating is also something important. It helps us to serve Hashem better. And then certain times, like on the Shabbat and the Yom Tov, it's more mitzvah to eat more, to enjoy it, because it's actually helping elevate you more. It helps balance out. And it's a mitzvah, and you're supposed to enjoy. It's supposed to be a time when there's joy in your life. So, but you always have to think that you're doing this in the service of Hashem. So plugging in is so important. Now, here's a funny thing about being plugged in. So I think Rabbi Mizrahi was saying this, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, DivineInformation.com. He was saying that people maybe will get turned off. This is kind of a similar analogy to being plugged in or not plugged in. That people might get turned off if you tell them certain things. You're being fanatical or strict. But I always say, like, how is it strict if it's what Hashem says in the Torah? Hashem is strict. Of course He wants to give you the goodness, and everything He does is good. But if you don't do something that is not according to His commandments, and you're violating it, then yeah, Hashem is strict. He has to put judgment. The mercy isn't there. He judges you strictly. Like Kol Shabbos is worse than a murder. Mizrahi will say that, and I will say that. And I've said that in actually another video where I talk about, I think it's, do you swear to tell the truth, ... That was the name of the video. Because in the Aseret Dibros, it's, Shabbos comes before murder, but that's aside. Anyway, back to this thing about turning off. So if you're very strict, you'll turn them off if you're so strict. So I don't know if it was Rabbi Mizrahi who said this or someone else said. He says, well, how can you turn off something that isn't even on? Meaning, if someone is so far away and they're so not connected, they're so disconnected, okay? Then how can you turn them off? Because they don't even know, they don't even have an understanding or realization of what it is they're supposed to be doing, because they've never known. So it's like they're not even on to turn off. So if you turn them off, they were never on to begin with. So it's not like they were already keeping, let's say they were already keeping Shabbos or doing certain mitzvahs, and then you told them something and then they were turned off because it was too difficult or too much for them. Okay, but this is people that are not even, have no understanding, they're no clue. So the same thing with being plugged in. You can't get any power out of your device. Like, okay, for the cell phone, you charge it and then it goes on the battery. But let's say you have a heater or air conditioner, unless it's battery operated or solar operated. If it's not plugged in, there's no power. There's no energy being transferred between the device and the electricity that is creating it to do something for you, whether it's an air conditioner, whether it's a heater, whether it's a fan. It has to have that connection. You can't, unless, you have a bicycle and you pedal and you get the electrical, but then you're not, I don't know if you get the fan on you, but that's aside. But usually things are plugged in. Like a fridge doesn't work unless it's plugged in. Or so the same thing with us. We need to really plug ourselves in, and the more the better. I mean, at the time that the world is in right now, it's really so important to study as much Torah as you can constantly, men, women, children, everyone, to just really devote as much time as possible. I do. I that's my main thing in life now. That's what I do mostly. And I feel so much better doing it. I love doing it. It brings so much joy to really connect that way, because ultimately that's who we are. We're, a part of Hashem, and our soul is what really matters. Our physical is not important. It just houses the spiritual inside of us right now in this world. Otherwise we couldn't exist in a physical world. We didn't have this, physical body. So, but because we're coming so close to Mashiach, and we really need to be strongly connected, because there's so many people out there that are so far from the truth, and they think they're doing what's right, and they get totally mixed up. What happens is you can mix a lot of things up and then start being lenient or doing things that aren't up to par. I mean, yeah, you don't have to be like super strict. I mean, you have to follow the Torah, the halacha. You don't have to be do like a chassid, like over and above if you want to, but you have to at least follow the basic general commandments that Hashem has given us in the Torah. And there are a lot of people who are making concessions, making their own decisions to fit their situation, which is not okay. And like Rabbi Mizrahi would say, Hamei ben Yavin, there are certain groups of people, and I'm not going to say who, that they'll, have people in a minyan because they need them, but they don't keep Shabbos. And I know this for a fact. I mean, you have to have 10 kosher men, 10 men who keep Shabbos to have a minyan, and then having the time of when you daven, if it's later than it's supposed to be. And for women, it doesn't matter. For us, women could just do it whenever they want. But for men, no, they have to keep to a certain time. Not like, oh, I want to have more time to rest. That's great. Of course, rest is good. Shabbos, that's what we do. But you have to keep to a certain time. There's certain things, certain rules, certain kind of things that you have to just follow. And you can't just decide for yourself that this doesn't work for the community I'm in, so I'm just going to kind of change it. It's like saying, well, okay, Hashem, sorry, for this particular thing, I just need to kind of, decide for myself. Well, we can't do that. It doesn't work that way. But anyway, we need to stay plugged in. That's all I have to say. You have to be plugged in. As the title I said, what was it again? I'm trying to remember. You have to, that's what it is. You have to be plugged in. So let's all try to work on that as much as possible, because there's a lot of people that are going to try to make us stray from following the ways of Hashem. They're going to start to kind of infiltrate in, and they have already infiltrated into a lot of people. And you have to keep, the way to overcome that is to continually study and connect in the Torah, like to just flood yourself with it, because then it gives you such a strength, a spiritual strength, that no one could tear you down. No one could tell you otherwise, that what you're doing is too crazy or fanatical, or that you're doing what Hashem wants you. So I pray that all of us will stay plugged in, be plugged in, always plug into Hashem and the Torah, always, as much as we can on a daily basis. And that with all of that, we will all merit to live and to see the coming of the Mashiach and the rebuilding of the third, final, everlasting Beis HaMikdash. Amen. May it happen very soon in our days. Thanks for watching.